My child, I am asking you to pause right now and listen with full attention, because this moment is not accidental and it is not something to delay or return to later when it feels easier or more comfortable, for the truth you are about to hear has reached a point where waiting would no longer serve you or protect you, and silence would now cost more than clarity ever could, not because I am impatient or demanding, but because timing has aligned in a way that requires honesty to be spoken plainly. And I am speaking now because what you have not fully understood yet has already been shaping your thoughts, your emotions, and your decisions, and love will never allow you to remain unaware when awareness can still guide your steps forward with peace and confidence, for you were meant to encounter this truth before it faded beneath distractions and noise, not because anything was being hidden from you intentionally, but because truth is easily buried when attention becomes divided. And life grows loud. And I press this moment forward deliberately because you deserve to understand what has truly been happening beneath the surface of your life, as you have sensed for some time that things were not as simple as they appeared, a quiet awareness that did not come from imagination or overthinking but from a deeper place within you where my voice has been gently speaking. And that is why I am asking you now to stop everything else, to stop the habit of half listening while planning your next move, to stop dismissing seriousness by calling it emotion, to stop postponing clarity in favor of comfort, because what I am revealing cannot wait for a perfect moment, for truth does not arrive when circumstances are ideal but when it is most needed, and you are standing in such a moment now, one that carries weight and meaning. And I know how easily moments like this can slip away when notifications interrupt, when thoughts wander, when the familiar voice inside says you will return later. Yet later often becomes the place where understanding is lost, not because it was withheld from you, but because it was not received when it was offered. So stay here, stay present, give this moment the respect it deserves, for I am speaking urgently not to frighten you but to protect you, because truth does not harm, it shields, it does not expose you to shame, it exposes what needs healing so that you may walk forward without confusion. And if I were to remain silent now, confusion would continue to repeat itself, cycles would persist unnecessarily, and pain would multiply without purpose, and I will not allow that when clarity can spare you, for urgency is not fear, it is care acting swiftly, and you have been asking questions in your heart even when you stopped forming them with words, wondering why progress felt slower than effort, why certain doors seemed blocked. Why clarity slipped away just when you thought you had grasped it, sensing resistance without being able to name it, feeling watched over yet unsettled, and that tension was not meant to define you but to guide you here, because I know you live in a world where many voices compete for your attention, each claiming importance, yet this is not noise, this is direction, not manipulation but revelation, not pressure but invitation, for I am not trying to frighten you into listening. I am inviting you to remain awake in a moment that matters deeply, because you are not weak and you are not unaware, you are perceptive even when you doubt yourself, you noticed patterns repeating, you recognized how often momentum built and then faded without explanation, how close you came to moving forward before hesitation returned, and those observations were not coincidences but signals your spirit perceived before your mind could interpret them, and that is why this message has arrived now. Because truth must be spoken before confusion hardens into belief, before uncertainty becomes a story you tell yourself about who you are and what is possible for your life, and I am interrupting that process now, cutting through the fog before it becomes familiar, not to overwhelm you but because I see the full picture and I want you to see enough of it to walk forward with steadiness and confidence, and do not mistake urgency for danger. For urgency means opportunity is moving, alignment is available, a window is open, and windows do not remain open simply because someone hopes they will, they remain open for those who recognize them and respond, and you may feel both steadied and challenged at the same time because truth anchors while it stretches, and that is natural, so do not rush to analyze every word. Allow your spirit to receive first and understanding will follow, for waiting longer would not bring more clarity but would give doubt more room to speak, and doubt grows loud when truth is postponed, yet loses its grip when truth is received. So remain with me here, do not surrender your attention back to distraction, for you are not being singled out to be burdened but chosen to be informed, and while knowledge carries responsibility, it also brings peace, because uncertainty drains you by keeping you guessing, while truth restores you by giving you ground to stand on, and this is why I called you to open this immediately, not to rush you but to reach you before the moment passed, not to overwhelm you but to steady you before you move again, because I care deeply about where you are headed and you deserve to know what has been shaping your path without your full awareness, so do not treat this as background or entertainment, treat it as guidance, for your life is not random, your questions are not meaningless, your restlessness has not been wasted, all of it has been leading you here, so stay, do not scroll away, do not minimize what you feel, let seriousness sharpen your focus rather than your fear. For you are safe to listen and protected by truth, and what is being revealed is meant to free you, not frighten you, so open your heart fully, set aside defensiveness, hurry, and the urge to look away, because you ask for understanding, you ask for direction, you ask for clarity, and this is the beginning of the answer arriving, and I said open this immediately because timing matters, do not wait because clarity is present now, silence would cost you more than listening ever could. And I am interrupting you on purpose, not competing with other voices but claiming your attention. Because what you are doing matters less than what you need to understand, and I speak with authority because I see what you cannot yet see, and with care because I know how easily moments like this slip away, and you have learned to move quickly, to consume and move on, a habit that has served you in some seasons but is dangerous now, because speed here would cost you peace and direction. And that is why I am stopping you directly, deliberately. For heaven itself has pressed pause so you can hear without interference, and I know attention is valuable and pulled in many directions, yet attention given at the right moment can change the course of a life, and that is why I am asking for it fully now, not allowing your eyes to read while your mind drifts elsewhere, for truth requires presence, and you cannot be guided by what you dismiss too quickly. And ignoring clarity does not come without consequence. Not because of punishment but because moments like this are time sensitive, and when clarity is postponed confusion fills the space, and when direction is delayed missteps multiply, and you may feel resistance rising, telling you this is too intense or demanding, but that resistance is not wisdom, it is habit, the habit of avoiding stillness because stillness requires honesty. And I ask you to stay anyway, to use your freedom wisely, because not every choice carries the same weight and this one matters deeply. And I am interrupting you because drifting through something critical without awareness compounds quietly, and I have redirected you gently many times before, but now clarity must be spoken plainly, and later is not neutral, later gives fear time to speak and urgency time to fade. And staying now is easier than returning later, and this interruption is protection, because love sometimes looks like being stopped mid-motion and told to pay attention, and I care where you are headed, about the thoughts forming in your mind and the direction your life is taking, and that care is why I speak clearly even when it feels uncomfortable, because survival habits no longer serve you here, presence does. And this moment is a hinge that will influence the next season of your life by making future decisions clearer and lighter, and I am preventing regret by stopping you here, not to control you but to inform you before confusion sets in, because knowledge received at the right time is mercy, and truth heard when offered is protection, and I am offering both now, asking you to breathe, to stop racing ahead, to listen actively rather than passively, for staying when something matters is a strength you possess, and this pause is not inconvenience but alignment, a pause that saves time by preventing wrong turns, and clarity rarely repeats itself in the same form, returning later quieter and easier to dismiss, and that is why I am speaking clearly now, not rushing you but inviting you to stop. For stopping is wisdom when direction is needed, and I am here with you. In this interruption, present and steady, asking for attention not out of fear but trust, because staying will bear fruit, and what unfolds next requires that you hear fully, and this message reached you because unseen hands have been guiding you here with precision, not by chance, not because you searched hard enough, but because timing required it, and there have been movements around you working quietly to protect and prepare you, guiding your attention through restlessness and repeated thoughts that invited pause, and divine urgency arrives when alignment is possible and delay becomes costly, and silence once served you but no longer does, for clarity must now be spoken, and you have grown through waiting, disappointment, and confusion, experiences that were not wasted but prepared you to recognize truth when it arrived, and I protected you from walking too far without understanding, closing doors quietly, slowing progress intentionally, preserving you even when it felt frustrating, and preservation must now become preparation, and preparation requires truth delivered at the right moment, because your life is not random and I have been involved in the details even when you felt distant, and this moment is active, you are between seasons, and awareness determines whether transition becomes painful or purposeful, and you are not lost because something in you has been listening, sensing when something was off, developing discernment, and this message is not accusation but information, a form of care that empowers wise choice, and distraction multiplies easily, burying truth when not received, and now words are needed because you are capable of hearing them, and divine urgency signals opportunity, not danger, and I am not exposing you but covering you, steadying you with understanding, and you were protected long enough to be ready, and this clarity could not have come earlier or later, but now, and heaven does not waste words, and I speak with intention to guard your steps and sharpen awareness, and I have been walking with you through confusion and quiet growth, and now I am speaking because the moment calls for it, and the truth you have not been told explains why things felt confusing and uneven, not because you failed or were incapable, but because unseen dynamics were at work beneath the surface, resistance, misunderstanding, pressure, and standing between movements creates tension that feels like confusion, and resistance is not always obvious, but often subtle, appearing as delay, distraction, or comfort that dulls urgency. An unseen resistance against sincere effort leads to exhaustion without explanation, and you misinterpreted spiritual friction as personal failure, yet resistance appears where growth matters, and confusion arises when many voices compete, and timing also obscured understanding because you were interpreting a process while inside it. Like walking in fog that does not mean the path is wrong, and some resistance came from self protection formed through past hurt, creating inner conflict that slowed movement, and silence was once pacing, not abandonment, but now enough has been hidden, enough misunderstood, and truth must be spoken, because your struggle had meaning, your delays were preparation, and you were fighting the right battle without knowing its nature, and clarity allows you to release self-blame and gain discernment. And resistance was meant to deepen reliance on me, not defeat you, and incomplete truth led to misinterpretation, and growth often looks like stagnation, preparation like delay, and now clarity changes how you move forward, preventing fear from shaping the next season, and confusion was a season, not your identity, and truth weakens fear, lifts fog, and equips you to move with confidence, and silence once protected but now endangers, because prolonged silence allows misunderstanding to root. And love speaks when silence misleads, and you are ready now, not fragile, not unprepared, and truth spoken now is protection, and this clarity is meant to free you, to reshape how you see yourself and what lies ahead, for you were not lost or misled, you were being prepared, and now you are ready to walk forward with understanding instead of confusion. My child, remain with me just a little longer, because what I am closing now is not only this message but a season that has weighed on you more than you allowed yourself to admit, and I want you to hear this ending not as an instruction but as assurance. Not as pressure but as peace, because endings guided by truth do not create loss, they create release, and you have been carrying questions, tension, and quiet self-blame for far too long without realizing how deeply it affected your confidence, your clarity, and your sense of direction, yet none of that disqualified you, none of that separated you from me, and none of that placed you behind where you were meant to be, Because even in confusion you were still listening, still reflecting, still seeking alignment rather than escape, and that matters more than perfection ever could. So understand this clearly now. What felt like delay was not abandonment, what felt like resistance was not rejection, and what felt like silence was not absence. It was timing shaping you gently while you were becoming strong enough to carry clarity without fear. And now that clarity has arrived, not as a sudden command but as steady light, you do not need to rush into action to prove anything, because wisdom does not sprint, it walks with awareness, and you are no longer moving blindly, you are moving informed, protected, and supported, even if the path ahead still unfolds step by step, because I have never required you to see the whole road at once, only to trust the next step when it is revealed. And this moment is one of those steps, a hinge moment where understanding replaces confusion and peace replaces tension. And I want you to let go of the belief that you must catch up or compensate for time lost, because nothing has been wasted, not your waiting, not your questions, not your emotional weight. All of it has been woven into discernment that will now serve you instead of slow you. And as you move forward, you will notice that decisions feel lighter, reactions feel calmer, and fear no longer dominates your internal dialogue the way it once did, not because challenges disappear, but because clarity changes how you carry them. And I want you to remember this truth when noise returns end. Life speeds up again. You are not late, you are not off course, and you are not behind. You are precisely where understanding needed to meet you, and from this place forward you are invited to walk with awareness instead of urgency, confidence instead of comparison, and trust instead of self-questioning. Because I am not asking you to strive harder, I am asking you to listen deeper, to move intentionally, and to remember that you are not navigating life alone, even when the next steps feel quiet rather than dramatic. And if doubt ever tries to return, remind yourself that you were stopped on purpose, informed on purpose, and guided on purpose, and that guidance does not vanish when a message ends. It continues as discernment within you, shaping choices you have not yet made and protecting paths you have not yet seen. So breathe, release the weight you have been holding, and allow peace to settle, not because everything is resolved, but because you are no longer confused about who is guiding you. And now as this message closes, let it close gently, not with urgency but with grounding, not with fear but with trust, knowing that what needed to be revealed has been revealed, what needed to be understood has been understood, and what comes next will unfold with greater clarity than before. And if this truth has steadied your heart, strengthened your faith, or brought peace where there was tension, comment amen and remain open to what is coming next.